Hello and welcome back, ladies. Today I'm going to be talking about villains in My Hero Academia because I believe people have very different views on who the best main villain is, and by main villain I'm limiting this discussion to Shigaraki, Overhaul and All For One. I am deliberately excluding Stain from this discussion because he's not really a villain, he's an antagonist, and that is all. I know a lot of people who say that Shigaraki is hands down the best villain character in this series, and I can understand them to a certain degree. I mean, he's by no means a bad villain, but he is still growing into his villainous state. You know, at the beginning of the series, he was kinda like a child who would get mad whenever things didn't go his way, but as the series goes on, we see how that changes periodically. I think Shigaraki's biggest change was when All For One actually lost to All Might as they were saving Bakugo, because at that point in the series, he could no longer rely on All For One to guide him anymore. You know, he had to make his own moves and find his own ways of doing things without it resulting in absolute chaos. What's interesting about that as well is that we see how the League actually calms down right around that time, which suggests that Shigaraki is starting to think rather than just rushing things aimlessly. So already we can see just why Shigaraki has an incredible growth as a villain, because he starts to go away from that whole childish routine and instead begins to think and plan things out properly. And I think the first move we got from the League after that was actually the connection with Overhaul. Now the reason I don't bring up Toga as Kami is because that was not Shigaraki's plan whatsoever. She went there on her own accord. But yeah, the League finally started to get invested as we were introduced to the Overhaul arc, because we see how Shigaraki, although he's a bit unsure about this whole thing, he still makes some sort of a deal with Overhaul because there may be a shared interest in what Overhaul's organization is doing, and in order for Shigaraki to get some sort of profit out of it, he of course has to supply Overhaul with manpower, which ends up being Togan twice. So Shigaraki is definitely a character with an impressive character development already, and I expect it will continue. However, he is not my personal favorite villain. My personal favorite villain is in fact Overhaul, despite the fact that he's very new to the series. The reasoning why I like Overhaul a lot more is actually very much up to my taste in characters. To me, Overhaul has that extremist type of attitude going for him. While he does plan things out, he does it in a way where everyone who works for him are seen as pieces in his little game. A board game more specifically, and we see this really well portrayed comparison between Shigaraki and Overhaul, where Shigaraki is the end boss in a video game and Overhaul is the king in a board game. Not by each and every detail, but generally speaking, this is definitely the case. Shigaraki values everyone in his team for who they are, to the point of it almost being like a family to him of sorts, even if it is at the end of the day them plotting to overthrow the hero society. But Overhaul's goal is different. He despises how quirks are being used, so you can see similarities from both Shigaraki and from Stain actually. However, what makes Overhaul stand out is his cold-hearted nature and just how cruel he can be. In recent chapters, this was extremely well displayed, which made me fall in love with his character as a villain even more. What I'm talking about is the way he openly said that he's been using his quirk on Eri multiple times, and I think that just put him on the top of the worst daddy club. Even if he's not actually her dad, I mean, we know that he obviously has got her from some other family, potentially killed her parents after finding out about her quirk. The second and last thing that has showed us how far Overhaul is willing to go to survive is when he went up to Nemoto and just extinguished his life in order to merge them into something new, which is the form that we've now only seen one panel of so far. The point is that Overhaul did cross the line so many times, and that makes him the baddest and most fucked up character in My Hero Academia to date. Of the information that we have, that is. I mean, we have All For One, but despite the fact that he fought All Might, we have very little information about him, which is why I could never really say that he's the best villain. But I do get a feeling that All For One is right up my alley, so I hope we get more information about him honestly. But I do not really see him becoming a recurring villain in the plot. Anyway, with that said, I'll be ending the video here. I'd love to hear about who you think the best villain in My Hero Academia is, and remember, it's all about personal preference, so there's no right or wrong answer. I can, as I said, openly say that Overhaul is my go-to villain. So yeah, leave a comment down below, and as always, if you did, please like this video if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new to my channel. This has been your favorite host, Perm, and I'll see you soon.